Hello, and welcome to this haunted episode of Coffee on the Coast. I'm your host today, Tina Prigge. I am delighted to be joined by author Chad Lewis. So, Chad, welcome to Coffee on the Coast. We are going to be talking today about your presentation at the Manitowoc Public Library, Wisconsin's most haunted locations.
Yes, well, happy October to you.
Thank you. And you know what? I just want to put this graphic up because your first presentation is tomorrow. So it's Wednesday. Tomorrow, Thursday, October 22nd at 7 p.m. is going to be the first opportunity for people to join you via the Manitowoc Library. And then again on Saturday, October 31st at 3 p.m. And you said that was in the safety of daylight. So let's tell people what we're talking about. Tell us about, let's preface this. You're an author. One of your books is Wisconsin's road guide to haunted locations.
Yes, and that's what the program's going to be. It's going to be a visual road trip to the scariest, creepiest, and eeriest places Wisconsin has to offer, from graveyards to rural fields to hotels and motels where you can spend the night if you dare.
Whoa, so we're not just talking about one place, we're talking about many places and many different kinds of places.
I put together my scariest list of places I've been that I want people to not take my word for it, get out there and explore on their own. And they're going to see a visual program. So they're going to see these places, the eyewitness drawings, some of my research there. And it's going to feel like they're in the room with me watching it.
Wow. So do you think the presentation might even be a little frightening? Should people be prepared for that?
Well, I think some teens will be fine. Their parents, maybe not so fine. Most of the time, it's the parents that are a little spooked out more than the kids, as the kids seem to love these stories, especially this time of year. Whether you're a diehard believer or a skeptic or somewhere in between, people just love these stories this time of the season.
Right. It is the perfect time for it. So let's set the stage. How long have you been researching this?
So I've been looking for the strange and unusual for about 25 years. I grew up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, which is near one of the 3 UFO capitals of the world we claim to have here in our state. Elmwood, Bellevue, and Dundee are those cities. So I was interested from a young age in UFOs. And when I started studying psychology at college, it really just kind of blossomed from there.
Interesting. So some of the places that you're going to be talking about, and we're talking all Wisconsin when you do your presentation at the library, are some of these places people may have already been because they're still in operation, or are most of these places, abandoned and tucked away and people don't know about them?
It's a great mixture of both. There's going to be places you probably never heard of, and some you might have visited without knowing that they're haunted, and then others that you've never heard the story whatsoever, like the Steinfell Monster, which is only about 20 minutes from Manitowoc, but most people in Wisconsin have never heard of it because it exploded onto the scene in the 1970s and 80s, and today it's almost completely forgotten about, or at least until I tell you about it and you go looking for it.
Interesting. So I'm going to put this image back up so people know. Again, we are talking with author Chad Lewis, Wisconsin's most haunted locations. This is going to be an event through the Manitowoc Public Library tomorrow, Thursday, October 22nd, 7 p.m., Saturday, October 31st, 3 p.m. in the safety of daylight. Take a look. This is Chad on the left of this image. First of all, Chad, I love the Wisconsin t-shirt. That is very cool. But do you want to tell people about this incredible axe that you're carrying?
Well, much to my credit, this photo was not posed. I was at a place called Weary Road outside of Madison in Wisconsin with my colleague Kevin Nelson. And I said, I don't have a lot of photos recently of our adventures. Snap one of me. And he did. And I happened to have my axe or my hatchet with me. And believe it or not, that hatchet gets more comments than any case I've ever worked on. And people often ask what I have it for. And I usually rattle off werewolves, vampires, sea serpents, sirens, witches, leprechauns, on and on and on. That's why I have the axe.
But I think too, you also mentioned just in case you need to chop some firewood, it's at the ready, right?
Yes, it sees a lot more action chopping firewood than hunting for werewolves. But a lot of the places I visit are dangerous in terms of known animals. We're bears, we have cougars, all kinds of wild animals that might be dangerous. And it's something to protect yourself as a last measure as well.
Smart. So don't go unprotected. So you mentioned werewolves, you mentioned vampires. I noticed in your bio that you've got a credit of tracking vampires in Transylvania, the chupacabra in Puerto Rico. Tell us a little bit about that. That's outside of Wisconsin and the scope that you're going to be talking about at the library, but I think it's incredibly fascinating.
Well, I think it's important to note that the rest of the world, they take these legends in a bit more serious of a tone than we do in America. When you're in Transylvania digging up vampire legends, locals say, "What are you doing? We stay away from these things. Crazy American, don't go looking for them. Don't you know that when you go looking for the weird will come looking for you?" So I think it's fascinating that so many cultures believe in this to an extent that many of them won't even say the name of the legend for fear that when you mention its name, it now knows about you and it will come after you.
Oh, interesting. It's the whole Voldemort theory, right?
Yes, exactly. And you can tell these people are serious, that they really feel you should not be looking into these things.
And do you feel that Wisconsin, the ghost stories and the haunted place stories that you found are on par with some of the other myths and legends and spooky things that you've tracked around the world?
First, you cannot throw a rock in Wisconsin without hitting a place that has a supernatural reputation. And in Wisconsin, we have combinations of not only ghost stories, but UFOs, mysterious creatures, crop circles, all kinds of weirdities. And some of our stories are the weirdest stories you will ever hear, no matter where you go in the world. So when it comes to just outright supernatural legends, I don't know if there's anywhere in the world that can compare with Wisconsin.
Interesting. I've got goosebumps just talking about it. This is going to be such a cool presentation at the library. Can you tell us one of your maybe scariest encounters?
I'm not a big fan of visiting Ed Gein's place in Plainfield. Now, it's just north of where a lot of your listeners or viewers are watching this from. And if you don't know who Ed Gein was, do not Google him. You'll be cursing my name. But people feel he still haunts his own farmland. Even though the locals burned down his property in the 1950s, he's been dead for many, many years. People still have weird experiences there. And one of the first times I went there, I had two psychics with me, people who believed they were intuitive. They could pick up on spirits. They had no idea where we were. It's in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. But as soon as I pulled up and said, "I'm going to go check out this field," they refused to get out of the car. They were picking up on too much negative energy. And even if you have zero psychic ability like myself, it's hard not to visit that place and get a sense of dread and sorrow and a feeling that you should not be there.
Wow.
Those are my favorite places.
Interesting. Wow. So this is going to be such a cool presentation. One more time, I want to just let people know it's an author event with author Chad Lewis, Wisconsin's most haunted locations. Thursday, October 22nd, 7 p.m. Saturday, October 31st, 3 p.m. That's Halloween itself. And that is going to be streaming on facebook.com/Manitowoc Library. Chad, thank you so much for the little preview of what you're going to be doing. Folks, turn in for a little haunted talk and find out about this cool lore, the myth, the legends, the truth. You won't leave disappointed, it sounds like, because this has been very cool.
Yeah, thank you, and keep an eye out.
Thanks so much, Chad. Take care.